Hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar, Introduction to Prompt Engineering with Microsoft Copilot. Thank you all so much for joining us today. My name is Billy Howard. I'm the Manager of IT Training Solutions here at ATI-Mirage. ATI-Mirage is based in Perth CBD with more than 30 years in business, with over 220,000 happy customers. We are specialist training in IT, PD, wellness, and a registered training organization. ATI-Mirage acknowledges the Whadjuk Noongar people as the traditional owners of the lands and the waters where Perth City is situated today, and we pay our respects to elders past, present, and emerging. I really encourage you to ask your direct questions in the Zoom tool interface, the Q&A, and we will answer all of your questions. Some of these questions will be held towards the end of the webinar, and some of them will be followed up after the event. We have also provided to you the chat feature where you can pop in your thoughts, your comments, and your feedback. But please use the Q&A for your direct questions. That would be great. You'll find the Q&A and the chat available in the bottom location of your screen. Just keep an eye out for those icons there and pop in your questions. Today's webinar is being recorded, and we'll be able to share with you a link after today's webinar. So please revisit that recording and also share it with your colleagues. We'll provide a copy of the PowerPoint presentation in a PDF format, and we'll also provide to you the Q&A after the event. We'll share those with you. It gives me great pleasure today to introduce Stephen Payne. Stephen is going to take you through today's topic. Stephen is our AI IT trainer consultant, and Stephen delivers the Microsoft Copilot training here in ATI-Mirage, as well as a bit of a guru as well in the 365 applications such as SharePoint, Teams, etc. I hope you enjoyed today's webinar, and Stephen, over to you.
Thank you very much, Billy, and thanks everyone for coming along today. I'm going to talk to you about these three things, really: the art and science of prompt design, and that's really what prompt engineering is. It's just what you type into the chatbot to get your answers, and there's some really good tips to get the most of that as we go through today. So I'm going to give you plenty of examples, and I'd love you to share in the chat as well as we go through today. So I thought what I'd do to start with is let's try and get a bit of audience participation. I just fired up Copilot, and I've asked, I'm running an AI-themed webinar in Western Australia. I've said what we're going to cover. Please suggest a short, fun question I can ask in the chat to elicit some fun but thoughtful responses from attendees. So there we go. There's me using Copilot to do my work for me. So hopefully, oh, there we go. That sounds like an exciting webinar. Well, I hope it is. If AI were an artist, what would be its favorite style of painting and why? There we go. So I'm going to grab that and I'm going to throw that into the chat. And it'd be great if you could respond. There we go. Quite an open question there. What sort of artist would AI be if it were an artist? And what's its favorite style of painting? I did this a similar webinar a few weeks ago, and it came up with a totally different question with exactly the same prompt. And that's something you'll find by using Copilot and other tools. I think last time it asked if AI could help you with an unusual hobby, what would it be? And what would your first question be? So some great answers coming through already. So I do like to see that. Thanks very much for joining in. So just a bit of a background first. Copilot is a generative AI tool there are lots of different types of Copilot that Microsoft have, as well as other tools, but we're going to focus on the chatting feature today and being able to create new text, being able to create new images and other content. So AI, if you haven't come across it before, you'll pick it up in no time, really easy to use, but you can spend quite a bit of time refining it and finding how it works for you. And hopefully I'm going to give you some shortcuts for that today. These are all some ways that you can use AI. Just with a few lines of input, you can summarize a really complicated document. You can create a poem for an advertising campaign. You can ask for text to be classified into a table. You can get questions answered on all sorts of topics. Copilot has access to a lot of content from the web. It has access to books and up-to-date news sources, so you can get some really good answers. Obviously, you want to check when anything is created. You do get some strange results sometimes, but it's definitely a very creative tool and really good at that summarizing and creative writing for you. So we'll look at some great examples as we go through today. This was some research that was done last year. 72% of people struggling to get their work done, 77% using AI, and 56% concerned there's a big learning curve to using AI. So there's definitely an appetite for AI in all sorts of different workplaces. And even if there isn't a policy at your work, there's definitely ways you can use AI. I saw a statistic this morning as I was on the train coming here, that 84% of people across Australia have used AI in some form in their work. So, you know, it's definitely something that's taking off. And with the things we're going to look at today, you will be able to see how AI can work for you. So we're going to look at prompt engineering, and it's really the, it's not magic, although it can seem magic in some places. It's all about designing and crafting what you type in and what you get out. When we first started using search engines, we were kind of cutting things down and just using keywords. Now it's more of a conversational way and actually giving more details, because the more details you get, the more tailored your answer is going to be. So we'll explore today how the words you choose, the format you write, and the context in the prompt is going to affect what you get out. So I've seen people who have given up on AI because it's given them the wrong thing, or it hasn't misunderstood them, but it doesn't understand what you do. You need to tell it. So think about this in day-to-day life. When we speak to one another, what do we make? What assumptions do we make? Especially people we haven't seen before. It's the same with AI. It doesn't know that you work in a finance situation. It doesn't know that you are writing a letter for senior executives. You've got to tell it who the audience is, what your role is, give it some background about you. How do we communicate differently with people of different ages and cultures? So we could maybe write a post for LinkedIn, and we might write it differently if we're going to put it on Facebook, because we've got a different demographic. So just by saying who the audience is and ages and backgrounds and ethnicity and all this sort of thing, AI can certainly help you be more effective with communication. And then also, what do we do when we can't see each other? Obviously, AI can't see you. It doesn't know whether you're frowning and that sort of thing. So, so you can just say talk about moods, talk about values, all of those sorts of things. So we're going to look at Copilot today. This is available to most organizations. I know it's available to people who work in government, people who work in large and small companies, schools, universities. It's Microsoft's AI-powered chat. So what are the sorts of things you can do with AI? You can get summaries of information. It can analyze documents. You can ask for your information to be provided in tables that can easily be exported to Excel. It can create content for LinkedIn posts. I'll admit I've used it a couple of times for LinkedIn posts. I've used it to help me write emails, and I've used it to create images to add to flyers and emails and that sort of thing. So it's really the new way to internet. I probably use Copilot a bit more now than a Google search. So I just find because I've been using it more and more, I know the way it works, I know how to input information, and I'm getting quality results better, much better than just doing a normal web search. So just a bit of background, if you log in with your Microsoft 365 email address, you get access to the latest models. You get GPT-4 for free is included, DALL-E 3 for images. It always tells you where the sources are, so you can check where that information comes from. It's up to date. It looks at news sources as well as large language models. And it also keeps all of your information protected. So everything is safe for you. Nothing leaves that conversation. In fact, nothing is saved. So if you do want to use anything that's created, you need to save that yourself. So you might want to play along with me today. You can access Copilot in so many different places. I am using copilot.microsoft.com. That's where I normally use Copilot. And I've got a Copilot app on my phone. If you go to copilot.microsoft.com and log in with your work email and nothing happens, it probably has been turned off for your work. That sometimes happens, but you can use a personal account like an Outlook or a Hotmail account as well, but you don't get that commercial data protection. So it's free for anyone to use, but it's included with most businesses' Microsoft 365 licensing. So if you don't see what I see, you might just want to check with IT whether something needs to be enabled. Excellent. So what do we use it for? We use it to create, edit, ask, catch up, and understand. Those are the kind of different ways that I like to think of Copilot. And I'm just going to give you some scenarios now around where you might use it. So you've searched and found some great articles, and you want to summarize them. You can just paste in a web address and say, summarize this content in 3 dot points. You can collect some information. Maybe you've got information in your emails or OneNote. You can just paste it all into Copilot and say, write an email based on these dot points that's suitable for my manager. Creating images. So if you want to show how cloud computing works to a new customer, you can just create an image showing cloud computing with a Perth City background. So you can really customize images and things like that. Explaining stuff, how come one thing works, comparing things. So all of those sorts of things. I quite often use it for pros and cons, and I ask it for more than one idea. So if I'm writing a LinkedIn post about a new initiative, I might say, can you give me 3 separate titles that I might use, just so it gives me something to work with. And it's really good at coming up with alternative ideas. So what do we need to be effective when we're using these tools? I think this is key. Specific and detailed. Write in full sentences and you'll get replies in full sentences. I'm always polite when I work with Copilot. I say please and thank you, not because I think it might be in charge one day, but mainly because the tone that I use sets the tone for our conversation. And if I write in a professional manner, I'll get responses in a professional manner. If I write in a jokey way, I'll get responses in a jokey way. If I use a lot of emojis, I'll get a lot of emojis in the responses. So here's an example. Recap the findings of the article I've copied below and include the top 3 concerns. Provide the answer in 2 to 3 paragraphs and use a business tone. So I've set the tone. I've said precisely what I want. That's much better than just saying recap this article and pasting in a web link. I haven't said how much of a recap I want. I haven't said how many points I want there. I haven't said what audience, what tone. So just adding that information just saves you quite a lot of time. But there's no wrong prompts. You might type something and it's not quite what you want, but the great thing about this is you can ask follow-up questions. So we'll be looking at that today. So experiment away. There's a link there which has got a really good article and some posters you can download. That will be available on the PDF that's sent out as well. So it'd be great just to, just while I show you a few examples, it's just to see if there's anything you found useful using Copilot or ChatGPT. Have you found something surprising or effective, or have you typed in something that perhaps wasn't effective? Did you type in something and you got a totally wrong answer? It'd be great if you've got any interesting examples to share. And with that, I'm just going to go through a few posters that I found on LinkedIn last week when I was preparing this. I just searched for guidelines for prompt engineering. So here's a few of them. So here's a formula. It's talking very similar to what I've just been saying. I picked this one up that says include the context, the task, the instruction, and clarify it. So maybe you ask a question and you ask for clarification. Do you understand what I'm asking for you? And then refining it. Another one here. What's the context? What information do you have? What's your particular goal? Are there any additional information you want to give? And how do you want it structured? Or what tone do you want? So do you want a funny bit of copy? Do you want to write a formal email? And that sort of thing. Another one here, saying mandatory is task. The first thing you've got to do is say, what is the task? What do you want? Can you give me a list of 3 ways I can use Microsoft Teams with my sales team? But then maybe give the context and an example. Say, we've been using it to collate information in lists. Are there other things we can do? So give an example. And then you can also give a persona. So you can ask Copilot, you are a search engine optimizer, or you are an experienced trainer. Those sorts of things. I think that's a really great thing to do. And I'll show you some examples there. And then what is the format? Do you want the results in a table? Do you want to create a list of dot points? Do you want a series of steps? Another thing is asking for questions. You can say, ask me questions that are going to help me achieve a goal. And I've got an example of that as well. Another one here, what's the task? What are the instructions? What's the context? What are the parameters? And what's the input? And this is really one that I use most times because I just remember those 4 words. What? What do I actually want? Why do I want it? Who's it for? Which information do you want? Am I referring to an article? Am I referring to a couple of websites? And how should Copilot respond? So I try and think of those. What do I want? Why do I need it? Who's involved? Which information or examples should it use? And how should it respond? So if you remember those 4 things, you're going to get some really good responses, as it says up here, instructions for success. Another great article that we are linking to in the follow-up resources is 7 tips for having a great conversation with Copilot. So start with the end in mind, set the stage, define your parameters, tailor the delivery, be polite, be curious, and then iterate. So you'll see when you use Copilot, it comes up with suggested follow-up questions. Sometimes they can be really helpful. They're the sorts of things that help you get a really good response. So we'll send this link out to you, but hopefully that sets the scene. And now I'm going to show you a few examples of what to do, what not to do. And I think we'll have some fun. I don't know what Copilot's going to come up with. So simple question here. What are some sustainable practices in agriculture? So I'm just going to copy and paste that. Let's see if I can copy that. And I'm going to open up Copilot. And because I was asking here about ideas for a webinar, I'm going to start a new topic so that Copilot doesn't get confused and try and combine all of my topics together. So if I'm changing topics, I click new topic, and I'm just going to type in, what are some sustainable practices in agriculture? And I'll probably get a decent response. But what I haven't said is, why do I want this? Who am I? Am I a university student? Am I a government decision maker? Am I creating a new business? Am I a farmer? haven't said who I am. I haven't said why I want this information. So I'm going to get some reasonable responses, but I could be much better by having a more, if I spend time writing a prompt, I'm going to get a better response. So this is good. This has come up with 7 great responses. It tells me all of the different websites it's gone to. Now it's picked up, I can see there somewhere from the USA. So maybe I want to restrict it to Australia or Western Australia. But I just iterated that a few times and I came up with this question now. So let's just compare the one I had above with craft a 1,500 word post for a general audience. I'm writing a blog post about the benefits. I want real world examples and I want insights from reputable sources. And I want a reflection at the end on the importance and a call for collective efforts. So I can actually change this for a general Western Australian audience. Okay, so it will just talk about sustainable agriculture that's relevant here. So I type that in and here we go. So it's actually writing a blog post because that's what I've asked it for. And it will refer to Western Australia. So it's talking about organic farms sprouting up. We've got a story of a Greenfields organic farm nestled in the rolling hills near Perth. Now, I have no idea whether the Greenfields organic farm is actually real. So before I put that in my blog, I will go and check that out. But it's setting out a nice, much more structured article than what I got earlier, which was just some dot points, many of which weren't relevant to my country or my state. So that's a really nice way of just being able to think about what you want, how you want it, who's the audience, and that sort of thing. So a really great example there. So just by typing in a bit more information, you're going to be in a much better position. Another way that I use it really well is to come up with a persona. So I'm presenting at a conference later this year, and they've asked me for a bio. I'm not really great at doing bios, so I just wrote something really brief about me, and I've asked for suggestions to add polish and make it more dynamic. So I'm asking Copilot to actually become a copywriter and will hopefully make me sound really awesome so that everyone comes to my presentation. So let me just make a new topic here. And so I've just basically copied that in. I'm writing a short bio for myself. My bio is a great start. It's concise and to the point. So it's giving me some suggestions to make it better. Start with a strong opening. Showcase your expertise. Hey, how does it know I've got over a decade of experience? Well, I might need to go in and check if it's kind of made some things up about me. And here we go. Look, I've revolutionized the way schools approach learning, resulting in a 50% increase in student engagement. Well, I'm going to struggle to actually prove that, so I might change it a bit. But you can see the idea there. It's come up with a suggestion. Feel free to mix and match these suggestions to fix your style. Good luck with your conference bio. So it just comes up with some suggestions because I've asked it to be a copywriter. It knows these sorts of things. Start with a strong opening, showcase, include success, add a personal touch, call to action. That's really nice. And that's going to help me make a better response. I also might want to use it in my personal life. So I did this at the start of the year, actually. So I just said, I want to improve my general physical health, and I wanted to develop a workout plan. But rather than just go straight into coming out with a plan, I wanted it to know everything it needed to know about me. And I didn't know, did it want to know where I live? Did it need to know my weight? Did it need to know my, my diet, my family situation? So it will have enough information, hopefully. Once I'm not going to answer all those questions in front of you today, but just to show you the kinds of thing it does, this can be really good. If you don't know what information to give, it's actually asking me questions here. So what's my medical history? What are my fitness goals? Am I familiar with weightlifting exercises? What distances have I run before? What food do I like? How much time can I do? How do I recover? And do I have a support system? So I can answer those 10 questions, and then it will be able to come up with a plan for me. So a really nice way of using it in all sorts of different areas, not just at work, but you can use it in your home life as well. So I think that's a really nice example. Another thing that works really well is just iterating. And that's a key thing here. Iterate, iterate, iterate. Start with a question and then refine it. So I won't go through this all with you now, but here we go. Write about advancements in renewable energy technologies. Well, that's great. I might get some ideas, but what about if I say, write a technical article focusing on solar and wind for an audience of engineers and environmental scientists. So I'm going to get a more technical response, and I'm only going to drill down into solar and wind energy. And then I did this, and then I iterated it even further. I won't read all of this, but I want to look at recent advancements. I want to look at the scientific principles, their efficiency, and I want to look at research papers, patents, and industry reports, and I want it up to date. So by putting all that information in, I've gone from just a general few dot points that have been found around the web to up-to-date stuff that talks about the science, that talks about the patents, and so on. So being able to iterate and improve your prompt definitely gives you a great example. So a couple of other things now. These are ones that I've actually done this year. You've got an upcoming event that you're coordinating that will include a lecture from an expert in your department's field, followed by a panel discussion of experts from universities, businesses, and the communities. You would like to use Copilot to help generate the title for your event, as well as a blurb you can post on your website, LinkedIn, and email invitations. So what I've done here, I'm going to go back to Copilot, and I'm going to show you a tip that I use. So I've said I've got a lecturer coming to give a talk on digital well-being in the workplace. She will lecture, and then there will be a panel with government, business, and community members. I would like you to generate 3 different titles and 3 different descriptions, keeping the tone professional, and each description should be no more than 3 sentences. So I always like that idea to ask for multiple things, 3 different titles and 3 different descriptions. And generally, if I ask for 3, there might be one I like: navigating digital well-being, balancing bytes and well-being, the digital dilemma. And so it's just come up with 3 descriptions as I asked, and each one is 3 lines long. Can you add a catchy tagline? So I don't want to ask that, but I'm going to ask, can you add a really funny and eye-catching tagline? And so what we'll get here, 3 taglines with a touch of humor. Unplug to recharge because you can't control Alt and delete burnout. Escape the Alt tab routine, find your digital zen. Don't let your workstation be your only station in life. They're pretty good. I'm going to say, can you do one more completely outlandish, off the wall tagline? And I'll put some exclamation marks to show the kind of mood that I'm in now. Let's see how we're going to do with that. Bite back at burnout, surfing the cyber seas of sanity. That's pretty good. So as you can see there, asking for choices gives you different responses, and you can just refine it by asking to add some humor and then being completely outlandish. While you might not use that, it helps you think in different ways, particularly if you're not very creative, like I'm not that creative. So that's pretty handy. Another one is I've used it for asking questions. Like at the start of today's session, I asked what could I use as a a question to get people chatting. Now I've got here, you're on a search committee working to hire a new employee. You'd like to use Copilot to help generate questions for your interviews and reference checks. Or you're preparing for a new employee to start in your office next week. How can you use Copilot to put together a schedule? So I'll just do that first one as an example and just show you, after doing this a few times, I iterated, and I came up with, I'm going to give an interview for the position of a project manager in a health department. Can you generate 3 general interview questions and 7 interview questions that pertain to program management in a government health setting? The program management questions should focus on attention to detail, program management techniques, financial management, compliance, and Microsoft 365 tools. The questions should be in a table format. Thanks. Okay. But the interesting thing is, every time you ask the question, you will get a different response because it's all done on probabilities. It's looking at all the information it has access to and generating what is going to be the most likely questions or response that you want. So we've got some questions here: general interview questions, program management questions. As I asked, 3 general and 7 program management. And you'll also notice up here, it's got a link to Excel. So if you ask for information to be provided in a table, you can just click Edit in Excel, and that will open in your Microsoft 365 OneDrive, and you can edit and export and so on. Similarly, if you want to export to Word, you can just click Export to Word, and it will open up in your OneDrive, so you've got a copy of it. Oh, some images may not export, but let's see how we did. There we go. So let's just put it in a table like that. And then you've got it actually saved with that title. Because as I mentioned, if you're logged on with your work email, nothing is saved. You have to physically click the export button as Word, PDF, or text, or Excel if you've got a table, or you can just copy the text and put it somewhere else. So that's a really handy tool. Another one I've done is using it for feedback, and I might if this is good, we might use this to get feedback from today. So you're using survey to get feedback from people who attended a workshop or a webinar. How can you utilize Copilot to create the survey? So I'm going to give you an example here. I'm giving a workshop on prompt engineering for a general audience. That's you. Hello, general audience. I'd like to generate a survey. The survey should be 5 questions long and ask to rate certain aspects of the workshop and present it on a 5-point scale. So I've got 5 questions. There we go. That's nice and straightforward. And then we've got one about overall experience, one about the content, one about the presenter's ability. Is there any interactivity and engagement? Oh, we've had a few questions. And how applicable are the skills to your professional life? That covers quite a lot in 5 questions. So really simple thing you can do there. You could then copy this and put it into a Microsoft form or a Google form, or have it as a paper-based feedback. That's excellent. I noticed a couple of people have raised their hands. If you're able to just type in the chat, we're able to get to those questions. So I'm just going to give you a few. I'm going to ask you a few. Give you a few example prompts, but I'm just looking at a question in the chat that I can ask. Can you ask Copilot to create an Excel spreadsheet with formulas? If yes, do you need to know what type of formulas you need? That's a really great question. So with this Copilot that we're looking at, which is a chat Copilot, you can certainly ask questions like, I have in column A, I've got this information. In column B, I've got this information. I want to find out the maximum number of whatever, and what do I put in column C? And it will give you kind of that general answer. If you want to know if you explain in plain English what you're trying to find, you can ask what formulas might be appropriate. It will definitely give you that. But this is just working with text, and you're going to get text answers, but it does know about Excel, and it has given me support in that way before. But if you've actually got an Excel document, there is a paid version of Copilot, Copilot Pro for home, and Microsoft 365 Copilot for businesses, where you can actually open up an Excel document, and there's Copilot inside Excel that will actually do formulas for you and format tables and that sort of thing. So that would be to get the most out of this, but you can definitely use the chat version to get some help. So hopefully that helps. But if you search for Excel Copilot, or even ask Copilot, how can you help me? How can you help me write formulas for Excel when I don't know what I don't know? There we go. How can you help me write formulas for Excel when I don't know what I don't know? And it will give me some suggestions. And here we go. So start with the basics, and it starts talking about how Excel works. And if that isn't quite what you want, you can say, look, I'm looking at working out averages, or I want to look at compare two tables and those sorts of things. Definitely just have a chat. Go with Copilot. As I said, there's nothing wrong. And if you iterate and ask follow-up questions, you should get what you want. Excellent. So a couple of things just to come to the end here. I'm going to share some example prompts, and these will be useful when you get the follow-up resources. These are great kind of catch-all prompts. So I'm new to a particular topic and would like a detailed introduction. Please cover its basic concepts, how it started, include common uses. Another one, misconceptions. So asking about what misconceptions there are about a particular topic, why they persist. What questions would you suggest for interviewing for an expert? And so this is great. You can ask, if I'm talking to an expert environmentalist or an expert civil servant or whatever it might be, it gives you a nice detailed set of questions. We've already talked about creating a quiz. So create a detailed quiz on a particular topic to help you understand it. And then another one that I've used is, what are the predictions and trends for the future of laptops, or the future of collaborative work with technology, or using AI for sales, or whatever it might be. So those sorts of questions that I've got on the screen there can be really helpful. I just want to mention one other thing about documents. You actually have up to 18,000 characters, so you can copy in emails and ask for a summary, or you can copy in website details, but it tends to get confused if you've got an article that's more than 20 pages or 15,000 characters. So what I generally do, if I've been given a long report that's 100 pages, I'll break it up into shorter bits and ask for summaries of each section. So that's a really handy thing that you could do. I've just seen there's a question in the chat about, are images created unique? Could there be copyright issues? That's a really good question. We're going to have a quick look at images now. And I'm going to set a little competition. I don't think we can share images in the chat, but you can definitely share text. So we're going to write a poem together. So your office has a new bring your pet to work policy. Create an image and a catchy slogan, or a poem for a poster to remind colleagues about this new policy. So what I'm going to do is bring up my chat here, and I'm going to type in, create a cartoon image of a man and a woman at a desk with a dog, a rabbit, and a lizard. include the caption, pets allowed. Now, if I want any writing on it, I normally put the writing or the text in quotation marks, and then it can pick up that it's text. So I've said, create a cartoon image of a man and a woman at a desk with a dog, a rabbit, and a lizard. Now, if you are to type in, if you were to type that in, you would get a different response to me. If you were to do this tomorrow, you'd get a different response. Ah, I'm not signed in. So I might need to, I'll just see if I can, I'm not sure whether I can sign in. I might try that again. If not, in fact, I'll just show you the one that I did earlier. That's what I'll do. We're running out of time. So this is the one that I created last week, all pets allowed. And then you can see all these pets here, a nice office environment. And I asked it to write a poem. So I'm going to put this poster up to show that pets are now allowed at our office. So maybe if you want to see if you can write a poem about pets being allowed in your office, maybe share that in the chat. Now, when you create an image, you actually own that image. It's good practice to say generated by AI. And if you share things on, if you're sharing it with people on LinkedIn and on X or Instagram, it's good practice to mark it as being generated by AI. But I normally say generated by AI by me on this date. But with regards to copyright, Bing certainly says that you own any pictures that are generated. They're not saved by Bing, so you have to copy and use them, but you can then obviously refine that and share that. So unfortunately, I couldn't show you the images being created, but I think you get the idea. It worked well in the first webinar I did last year, so you might want to go back and have a look at that for a bit more on images. So my final thing here is do remember to practice. You're not going to be able to get the perfect answers straight away. Sometimes they're mistakes, so do check the sources, check the detail, see if there are any errors, and talk about it. I've learned tips from speaking to colleagues and to customers and different people that I encounter. How are you using AI? I saw someone recently who'd used it to create a new logo for their business. I saw someone who used it and to pretty much write a book about a particular topic. So there's always new ways of using AI. So that's really all I wanted to share with you today. Keep practicing, try things out, and ask people what they're doing. So I'm going to just go back to Billy and see if there are any further questions, and then we'll wrap up. Thanks, Billy.
Okay, just bear with a moment.
So someone's asked that, are you able to attach documents to ask it to summarize them? That's a really good question. Yes, you can. If you're using Microsoft Edge, you can upload a PDF document, and there's a Copilot sidebar, which will you can interact and ask it to summarize that document. It only works with PDF. So if you're given a Word document or a PowerPoint, you can save it as a PDF and then interact with it.
Great. Thank you so much, Stephen, for yet another informative session. Really appreciate that. Really insightful on how we can optimize that use of Copilot and ChatGPT. If you are interested to learn more about Microsoft Copilot, we do have 2 courses available, and these are half-day courses. They run back to back. I will also share with you a link in the actual chat as well. So if you want to check out the contents of these courses, please do so. And really, you'll see the intro course is really discovering how Copilot works with other Microsoft applications. And you can write formulas in Excel, for example, and generate content for PowerPoints, and also optimize your emails. The advanced course is more about the advanced prompts to enhance that accuracy and your outputs. I would really appreciate your feedback, what you thought about today's webinar, and it can be as simple as using your mobile phone. You can turn the camera on and point it to this QR code. That will give you a link. You can then click on that link. It'll only take you 2 minutes to complete. So really appreciate your feedback. I will also drop this link in the chat so you can actually do it directly from the chat if you wish. So I'll just drop that in the chat. So I'll just give you a couple of minutes to locate the link or use the QR code. I've just dropped that link there for the feedback form in the chat. I've also shared with you a link to the courses based on Microsoft Copilot Intro and Intermediate. If you'd like to connect to us on social media, you can easily reach out to us on LinkedIn, and we're also on Facebook. And if you really enjoyed today's webinar, please leave a 5-star Google review. Webinar is now concluding. So if you've got any final questions you'd like to ask, please pop it in the Q&A, or you can use the comments if you wish, and we'll follow those up after the event. We'll answer all of your questions. Thank you ever so much for joining us today. I hope you found this webinar useful and insightful, and we're looking forward to seeing you on the next webinar very soon. So thank you so much, folks. Bye for now.